as usual, that you always have a wonderful weekend because life is for living. What have I got in today's program? Very interesting. Ghana at 65. Remember that. Ghana at 65. The first African country to gain independence from Great Britain in 1957. But has it been worth it? Military coups, political instabilities, corruption, you name it. The country, like the rest of Africa, has seen it all. Now, to be an African is beautiful and ugly at the same time. So said Muta Kilimanjaro, a famous author here in London, in one of his articles. Now, how has the past leadership of Ghana influenced the present political leadership of the country is one of the major issues we're going to discuss in today's program. Many Africans, especially Ghanaians, say that Dr. Osangiko Kwame Nkrumah and Flight Lieutenant Jerry Rawlings are the two heads of state that shaped the political landscape of Ghana. Are they right? That's one of the major things, major issue we are going to discuss in today's program. In the studio today with me is Mr. Adeka Makinde, a lecturer and an author. By the way, he's been on this show a number of times. He has served as a program consultant and provide expert commentary for BBC World Service Radio, China Radio International, and Voice of Russia. Welcome to Africa Speaks of Today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nkrumah. Somebody said this, Nelson Mandela once said that he was the right man, but in a wrong era for Ghana. So said Nelson Mandela. Was he right? Because he was the right man for the country, gained independence, fought the independence, did all that. Everything was okay. But the era he was in as president of Ghana, if he had lived in this era, maybe he would have been the best president the country has ever. But because of what was going on at the time, with the Soviets and Americans having, the West and East having their own battles and so on, was Mandela right?
I can see why he might say that, but I would tend to disagree with it. I think that, first of all, I do agree with that, your earlier comment about Nkrumah and Rawlings. Mm-hmm. They were both very charismatic men who had the ability to project that charisma to the general public.
Okay.
And they have had a profound influence. And where it comes to Nkrumah, Rawlings, and those in between them and after them, I think the problem still remains the same. So during Nkrumah's era, yes, you had the Cold War.
Yeah.
And he got caught up in that, just like President Nasser did.
Yeah.
And not uncoincidentally, both of them had these designs in terms of, generating power to create an industrial society.
Yeah.
It was Volta in Nkrumah's case, and it was, the Aswan High Dam in Nasser's case. And in both cases, both men came under severe pressure from the Americans not to deal with the Soviets when they wanted to deal with anybody. But why I think Mandela is wrong is, first of all, whatever era you live in, you need to have some sort of a program. And that program, which Nkrumah, at least in his mind, wanted, was to create an independent Ghana, a properly independent Ghana, free from neocolonial influence, and a Ghana in which the Ghanaians were productive, had an independent economy, and developed an institution that was uniquely theirs.
But what Mandela looked at, the people of Ghana themselves, the people of Africa at the time, needed a different kind of education to understand their leaders. And Nkrumah fought this in terms of those who were challenging him. And he was saying, hey, let's do this. And they wanted, he had challenges. Those who wanted to go on the left and he wanted to go on the right, for example. And that is why when he was saying, look, he was in the wrong era, because the era of those who understand, who have a political mind in Ghana and in Africa as a whole, we're not there. Because imagine, during independence. There were few doctors, there were few engineers, there were few lawyers, there were few in everywhere. The man in Tanzania faced a similar problem. So did the
Julius
man in
Nyerere.
Nyerere faced a similar problem in Tanzania because there were very few educated people. The institutions were just opening up. And in Uganda, we had more institutions than in Kenya and Tanzania. And everybody was coming to Uganda because that's where the first university was. The only university was Makerere. So what I'm saying is that the fact that there were few educated people in Ghana at the time, and that in itself, and him trying to get his message across about Pan-Africanism and all that, and very few people were saying, what are you talking about? So that's why he was saying that, look, if he had been in that era, in this era now, with a lot of Pan-Africanism and a lot of Africa's knowledge about what's happening in the rest of the world, then he would have been the best president for Ghana. You get the point?
I see what you're trying to say, but I still say, whichever era you are, these obstacles will
always be
apply.
there.
Because he fundamentally wanted Ghana to be independent. And when you want to do that, and I'm not saying it's something that should not be fought against, there will be attempts to always bring you down. And I'll give you examples. Saddam Hussein, Muammar Gaddafi, whatever you think about them. Saddam Hussein, one of the things he did was he announced that he would no longer trade with the dollar and he wanted to trade with the EU currency. He also, Muammar Gaddafi wanted to create an African currency which would not use the dollar, but it would use the dinar, which would be backed by gold and other minerals and commodities produced by Africans. These things are threatening. And that was one of the major reasons why Hussein was brought down, and also why Gaddafi was brought down. So these problems will always face you. The second point I want to make is about, so when it's Cold War, or when it was a multipolar war, Soviets versus Americans, today it was more of a, certainly when Rawlings, he was there when the Cold War was about to end. And after that, the world became a unipolar world, but it's now becoming multipolar because of China's rise and also Russia. These, the fact of education or an educated cadre, I would still submit is not, that is not the reason, because I think what you want, even if you're starting from scratch, you need a plan. To really educate people, and you think in terms of 10 years, 15 years, 25 years. Nkrumah had foresight, and I think we can see that he didn't have the time to make things come to fruition. But even looking over his program, where you plan over a certain amount of years through an accelerated, because nobody's waiting around for you.
Of course,
not these neo-colonialists who want to keep you permanently indebted. You want a program that will change those illiterate peasants, like Joseph Stalin did in the Soviet Union, or like General Park Chung-hee did in South Korea. South Korea was literally the poorest country in the United Nations. So you want an elite. There were an educated cadre of elites in Ghana who came after the independence, or rather came before independence. And through those people, if they worked together and you didn't have these fissures, like Nkrumah falling out with J.B. Danka, who died in tragic circumstances, and that it looks like a bad mark against Nkrumah. But you need those people, if they are together and cohesive and can plan how you're going to accelerate development from primary, secondary, technical school, university, postgraduate over a course of time. You set out that program, and if you're united, well, it will make it difficult for any extra international powers to bring you down.
How about the military coups, Brigadier Kwasi Afrifa, and obviously Lieutenant Accra 66, the military coups that took place? Could these have also been, because they opened up a certain road in Africa, which was never there. African military men started viewing this military coup as a way of also getting leadership. Well, certainly in Uganda in 1966 when Obote had the coup as well. And then the others started coming in, and the next thing you know, it was a fight for all. Could this have been... It has a massive impact, not just on Ghana, but on the rest of Africa. What about Ghana itself at the time? Because this was another landing issue which most Ghanaians never knew about. And out of the blue, the president's gone, and the Western influences have started coming in. The British, you're hearing rumors about the British getting involved, getting him out of the way, and so on and so forth, just as you have said about Saddam Hussein and the others. The whole thing, as it appears, its impact on the current political system. How do you see that? Because
I don't think the coup came out of the blue in a sense. I mean, Nkrumah was apparently shocked.
It was anticipated.
When he learned, he was in transit from China to Vietnam.
Yeah.
He couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
But in a sense, he knew that, because let's not forget, he survived 3 or 4 attempts on his life.
Yeah.
Some of that emanated from elites within Ghana who wanted to be rid of him. And there were people across the ethnic divide. The cocoa planting elites in Ashanti.
In Ashanti,
the Airways. And those were the people who, as military officers, came to overthrow him.
Yeah.
But let's not forget that, I mean, perhaps the person who set the ball rolling was in North Africa, Gamal Nasser, and his free officers in Egypt in the early 50s. And also in West Africa, you had coups in Togo. So it was and Ghana's coup, February 24, 1966, that was preceded by Nigeria. January.
That's what I'm saying is that when you look at the pattern that suddenly started coming up, and then when it happened in Ghana, it has such a massive impact on not just the economy of the country, but on, which direction are we going in? He was taking the country in a different direction. Suddenly the country is heading for another direction. That is the impact I'm trying to look at.
I mean, when you say impact, I mean, are you saying that military coups became the prevalent way of removing people from power?
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing. And secondly is when economically, because whenever you get a change in government in such a way, which hasn't been a transitional government, there is always that element of a lot of things disappearing. Other people have gone. For example, you have new people who haven't handed over power properly, ministers and so on. And there is a lot. That's the beginning of corruption, not just in Ghana, but in the rest of Africa and the rest of the continent.
I don't necessarily think so. I think certainly the fact that Ghana was a beacon of Africa, first independent African country, and also a draw for Pan-Africanism. So you had Americans like W.B. Du Bois living there. So it had that aura about it, for sure. But when you say going into a different direction, Nkrumah essentially was a socialist. And I think, he was overthrown because they said he was becoming too dictatorial. It was intolerable. It seemed like in the communists' way of state communism in Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union, there's only one line, no dissent. You mentioned corruption, but corruption existed.
It did, but the impact wasn't that big. It wasn't that big.
I think
the coups opened it up. There are certain things which are there, but they are not in the open. But then when something like this happens, it's practically opened up that...
Well, where's your evidence for that? we need figures, because somebody will say one of Nkrumah's lieutenants who he fell out with, Kobla Bedema, they say he was very, very corrupt. But they also, other people detractors will say among these military men that Afrifa, despite his public relations, was corrupt. And he took money.
Maybe this is
from
one of the
national coffers.
Rawlings says something similar. That is why he actually executed the 3 former heads of state. That it's that these people were corrupt, and the decision to execute them came from the General Military Council and so on. It wasn't really him.
Okay, well, if we just go through things in a bit, let's go through it in a pattern. First of all, let's talk about ideology very quickly. Nkrumah was a socialist. They said he was becoming too dictatorial. And there was resistance around Ghana. The rich cocoa planting classes, Asante land, the people, Ewe people, even among Ga boxers. They had the Tokyo Joe hairstyle. And that was apparently some sort of resistance against the Convention People's Party of Nkrumah. So all of these people coalesced to overthrow him. So what did you have? From being socialists, authoritarian, obviously, and that continued the military rule, but from that socialist bent and tilting to the Soviet Union, you had a pro-American, pro-British government under the NLC, the National Liberation Council, which was headed first by Lieutenant General Nkrumah, and then when he was forced from office by then Brigadier Akwasi Afrifa. So they changed direction, became pro-Western, and embraced capitalism. But the other thing that you appear to be hinting at, well, corruption is something that exponentially grows in any circumstances. And there was a lot of it in Nkrumah's time. And if we're going to the explosion that happened in June of 1979 with Flight Lieutenant Rawlings, which led to the executions of the senior military officers, you have to look at things as a pattern, because from Afrifa handing over power to Kofi Busia, civilian government, then Achampong taking power. I think Achampong needs to be mentioned because he needs to be mentioned for two extreme reasons. The first tragic reason is that he presided over Ghana's absolute decline. The people who overthrew Nkrumah in February 1966, who said it was a corrective coup, they said Nkrumah had accumulated a lot of debt. And that some of his projects were white elephants. That is disputed, because there's every evidence that these people were continuing to use his projects and his things. But when it comes to the 1970s, Achampong made a very good start to his government, and he reinvigorated that. He wasn't always express about it, but he really reinvigorated an Nkrumah's mentality. Let Ghana be independent. But that thread of debt followed Ghana, and things reached such a nadir that from that promising start, Achampong bore the brunt of the absolute descent, not just into corruption, which absolutely affected the military, but also the society itself. What I'm trying to
point a finger at here is that actually the decline had begun before the end of the Nkrumah era. The position he had, the opposition he had with the Ashantis in terms of the cocoa farmers and all that, people had already started making sure that they bring him down. That was part of the whole point. So the decline had begun. So when those who came into leadership...
Decline in what?
Decline in terms of, say, for example, as you were saying about the debts, the country had acquired quite some debts. He actually says so in his book, one of the books that he wrote. Nkrumah. He mentions that, listen, the fights that I had with the farmers and the others who are all looking at seeing that I'm increasing taxes to help the country, they don't see it in that position, that we needed to get taxes. If we need to make sure that Ghana grows, we need to get taxes and make things run so that when we start selling whatever we're going to sell and earn our money through the cocoa and through other, gold and diamonds and whatever we have, then we'll start seeing how, because people were not banking money, things had started going badly. So I'm just pointing that out, that the decline had sort of started before the end of Nkrumah era. Now, when he came back, those who took over power wanted to...
Who came back?
And what I'm saying, when they took over power, they didn't fight that decline. They started with the new policies. So the decline went. By the time Achampong came in, the decline was already in a full flow. The country economy had started going down. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Not totally, because that debt remained. And we need to talk about debt as an issue in the past and the present day. But actually, in the early days of Achampong, there was a rise. There was a rise in food production.
Yeah.
When he was colonel at Champong, he launched something called Operation Feed the Nation.
Yeah.
And Ghana not only became self-sufficient in food, it also began exporting. And he was trying to do what Nkrumah wanted to do.
Exactly.
It's painful.
He went back to the...
He went to those kind of basics of let us have economic freedom.
Yeah.
We need to invest in ourselves. We need to be confident in what we can produce.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, Ghanaians were complaining in Nkrumah's time, they don't like these Soviet products. We want American stuff.
Yeah.
Well, even the things you become dependent on, from sardines to other imported things, which were, as Achampong said, were totally unnecessary. He was trying to change people's minds, and there was an improvement in the economy. Now, debt was an issue there.
Yeah.
But the question was, how do you manage debt? Nkrumah, I think his admission of that was, he was saying, this is an investment for the future. As long as these projects are supported, the debt will be repaid eventually. But Nkrumah was also the victim of economic sabotage.
He was
also victim of a mentality that cuts across the board, whether it's Nkrumah's era, the NLC era, Busia, Achampong, Rawlings, that colonial mentality.
It goes back to the educational structure, which I was talking about. When Mandela said he was in the wrong era, he was the right man, but in the wrong era. It goes back, when you have forces fighting against you, you may be the right person for the job, but because you have forces fighting against you, the chances are, what chances have you got?
You will always have those forces, but I have a very good answer for you. I have a very good answer. You brought up that man in Tanzania. Dr. Julius Nyerere. Well, let me ask you a question. Was he in the wrong era?
At the very beginning of his government, I think he was in the wrong era. But as he continued ruling Tanzania, suddenly he started waking up. He started seeing things from a different angle. God gave him he was lucky, he stayed in power for such a long time, and he corrected so many mistakes he had done at the beginning. But one thing that helped him so much was the language. Because when people speak Swahili in Tanzania, and when you have a language as a major weapon, which everybody's using, you normally don't really have that, the kind of things that are affecting other African countries where the language, that's why Kenya, you look at countries which have had stability, they have a language as a major issue, especially if it's a local language, which everybody speaks, or you have it at schools and so on. We've had that problem because we have Swahili in Uganda, but we don't have it as one of the major languages. But Kenya is okay and Tanzania is okay. It's because the language has managed to hold on to people so that there isn't too much division, tribal divisions. It's because of that. Okay. So he got lucky there. Now,
was it luck?
I think so.
Because
to me, I think it was lucky.
Think about it. There's Nyerere, part of East Africa. Across heavy terrain, you get to Congo, the land of Mobutu. And then upwards you've got Kenya. Now, if you compare them, Kenya may have had the appearance of stability, and in some ways it still does. But we know that there have been outbursts, of course, of tribalism. Whereas it was always there, but like the assassination.
They don't bring it. They don't.
Thomas Mboya.
It doesn't come up in light.
You can see that there was a difference in Tanzania, and it was more than, because Swahili, they speak it across East Africa,
I know.
Julius Nyerere, I think you should give him more credit than just luck. I think it may have had something to do with his upbringing as a Roman Catholic. I'm not saying this as a proselyte of Catholicism. But what that does is it gives you values of universalism. How to get people. I'm not here to talk about the evils of Catholicism. I'm talking in an intellectual level. And that he came from a minority tribe. And so somehow he definitely used that to get very desperate groups in Tanzania together.
Okay,
this was something that Mobutu never did.
Yeah.
This was something that Kenyatta, who looked at the Kenyan state as an extension
of his family,
the Kikuyu nation,
so,
they got it wrong. So I think you need to give him.
I give him credit, but then at the same time, he also mentioned
for the stability.
He also mentions he mentions two things which kept him very, very well in office, and which he managed to do very well. The very first one, in fact, he also mentions luck. That he was a lucky man. But another thing he mentions is that he's so good at observing characters, and the selection of the team he often did, because his policy was, if you have a better team, nothing will fail, because he selected these people from the general, from the working class kind of people who have been there. He would never, for example, bring you in his cabinet when you haven't climbed from Chama cha Mapinduzi, you haven't climbed the ladders within the political party. He looked at the structure of China, and the structure, because in China, to be a member of the top party, you have to have come from, say, for example, if it was here, like the council, you come from down the council, then you climb as a councillor, then from the councillor you become a member of parliament, and so on, and then by the time you reach parliament, you become a minister. He couldn't get somebody a ministerial post when he hasn't come in from the background from being a councillor, and so on and so on. So he says he was lucky there, in a sense that he had the team who would select for him people who have come in through that channel, and that is why he had Tanzania.
At the end of the day, was Ujamaa socialism a success? It was not.
It wasn't.
It was not.
But that is Tanzania.
We don't want to go off the point. I know we're Pan-Africanists, and I do want us to make analogies with these African leaders.
That's what I'm saying.
Nkrumah, and
that's what I'm saying. That he admitted his mistakes, just like Kaunda in Zambia as well. The mistakes are made. You start a policy, then suddenly you discover that the policy doesn't work. That's why when you say, oh, maybe it's the wrong era to start a policy, maybe this policy would work when people are more well informed about it, and this policy won't work unless people are informed. If people are not well informed about it, then you're going to find difficulty in implementing that policy. But I want us to go to Ghana, because we're discussing Ghana.
Yeah, I want us to go to Ghana, but still, you mentioned Nkrumah, and I need to finish this point about in Nyerere.
Yeah.
Ujamaa socialism was a failure.
Yeah, it was.
Now, we've got to then look at what was his vision, and also what was Nkrumah's vision.
Yeah.
Now, let me just mention this thing about Nkrumah coming under these pressures. You mentioned it like at Gamal Nasser. Now, let me look at it on two fronts. The funny thing about, when I say funny, the ironic thing about Julius Nyerere was that while he was cast iron sure about protecting himself from these external pressures, he did that very well.
Yeah, he did.
They tried to overthrow him.
Yeah.
And it might have been a CIA man like Larry Devlin who was responsible, they say, for this man's death, Patrice Lumumba's death in Congo. But he expelled that man. And so he had almost total security. There were some military coups against him. It's not often mentioned later on. But he protected himself very well, which was very difficult, not just from the fact that the Americans and the West would normally be very hostile to somebody who appears to be close to the Eastern Bloc, Nkrumah and Nyerere, to China and things like that. But he weathered that very well, and he could have been under very great pressure because he gave a home to all manner of African liberation fronts, and that could have been a way to channel, a way to have him overthrown. He understood it perfectly, and he did better than Nkrumah in that sense. Where he went wrong, and we can marry this, not just to Nkrumah, but to Rawlings, and anybody who comes after Rawlings, was in his dealing with the international institutions, Bretton Woods, IMF. So whether you are Nkrumah, a socialist, whether you are Kofi Busia, a neoliberal, or close to a neoliberal, or the pro-capitalist, in between that was the NLC that overthrew Nkrumah, you have to deal with these foreign institutions, the global institutions. This is where Nyerere put his trust in them, but he didn't realize that the ultimate aim, even though they appear to be sympathetic to him, and he trusted them, they helped him with his programs. They used to call it development economics, because although he was socialist and to the left, many at that time, 1960s and 1970s, governments in Europe, they were socialists. So the World Bank, IMF could fund his projects. But the ultimate thing, not just was that the Ujamaa was something that fell short of let us industrialize, let us totally mechanize our economy. Okay? It seemed to be this, what people disparagingly call a peasant is king kind of mentality, which is not going to make you independent on the world stage. So he entrusted these people, and so the thread that follows us from then to this present day is indebtedness. And in Nyerere, he only understood that after he'd retired. He knew that wherever system you're using, because the world turned to a neoliberal world, rise of Ronald Reagan, rise of Margaret Thatcher, and then from development economics, it turned into structural adjustments, selling off of state assets, and the Western companies buy up a lot of your valuable resources. He only realized that later on, that the aim of these institutions is to create indebtedness. This is something African leaders still have not managed to solve. It's
that problem can only be solved by unity. If you have 6, 7 African countries, the structure now being created by ECOWAS and the structure being created by the East African Federation could easily deal with that, because if you are more than 20 countries and you are all in debt, the data will listen to you because you have a much bigger voice. Otherwise, you won't get your money. For example, that unity structure,
but not just the organization. Because we talked about Mitumba before. It's only one aspect of it. But that idea, even though it was one aspect of an overarching plan, remember, 3 countries were threatened, 3 countries backed down. That is the problem. That is where unity should show its face.
I think I believe you to that extent, but I'll still believe the fact that I've discussed this before with a couple of other politicians, and I can see ECOWAS, for example, if you have one currency, because remind you, Europe is also in debt. America is in debt with the Chinese and so on. So everybody is in debt.
That's a reality.
It's a reality.
Usury.
Exactly. It's a reality. But the numbers mean a lot when it comes to sitting down and saying, hey, this is where we are, and either you listen to us or you don't, and then we move on, and then you won't get a penny. But I want to go back to Ghana.
Yes.
I mean, this is a huge topic. Rawlings ruled Ghana for 11 years, twice in office, and a huge generation of changes happened during Rawlings' time. And in fact, because he had more opportunity than what Nkrumah had, the policies and issues and what he left behind in Ghana, it's like people weigh each president looking at what Rawlings had done in Ghana in terms of, okay, how honest are you? What have you done? Or this or that or that. Is that right in a way for people, for Ghanaians and other Africans to start looking at Rawlings more as somebody who became more of a liberator, who more of an achiever, despite his mistakes? To weigh the Akufos, to weigh the others who are coming up. Because I've been speaking to a number of Ghanaians, and they are looking at it from that angle. And I'm saying, no, I don't think so.
I
think every African president faces problems which are similar to me. And Rawlings faced similar problems, but it's how he handled those problems. Well, now, how has his impact been on Ghana in terms of politics? In terms of leadership, he's 65 years now. What sort of impact? He's gone now, so we look at it back and say, what did Rawlings really do?
What did Rawlings do? Well,
could influence the current political structure of Ghana.
The first thing is, well, they have what is a Western imported model of liberal democracy.
Yeah.
So let me look at Rawlings from more or less the start, or let's look at his second coming.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That is not a blasphemous thing to say, since he was called Junior Jesus. I mean, when Rawlings came to
Junior
power,
Jesus,
the thing about it was, and you know how they make these Nkrumah was showboy. You know, they love their nicknames in Ghana and in Africa. No, these guys were very charismatic, but I think the way where Ghanaians and all Africans need to look at it is, you look at whoever you're looking at. Rawlings, well, right from Nkrumah through those military rulers to Rawlings and those who've succeeded, you know, Atta Mills, Kufuor, and President Akufo-Addo. What have they done to try to make Ghana economically independent? And secondly, what have they done to create a synthesized political system, which is not just a photocopy of America or Britain? Something that genuinely merges with the people's concepts, so that, you know, like when we talk about tradition, I'm not talking about House of Chiefs, because you give traditional rulers certain powers, and it's all about ego and being an intermediary with politicians. That is not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to something that affects the African psyche, something that merges with the people's consciousness, that delivers for them. So Africans need to think very carefully about their systems. Now, when Rawlings came to power for the second time, this was what was thought of. Because there is a very interesting interview with, now retired, he's still alive, Brigadier Joseph Nunu-Mensah. And I think this was around January 1982, just after Rawlings came to power again, and there were complaints about abuses of the army during the seizure of power. And this came up in the National Reconciliation Council that Kufuor established in the 2000s. And what Nunu-Mensah said is that, look, Ghana, we've been independent, well, at that time, early 80s, I don't know if you do your addition, 20, you know, how many years would 1957 to 1982 would have been how many years? 20 something years?
It's about 20, 22, 23, something like that.
And he said, look, we've looked at Westminster model, we've worked around it, we have no joy. And so what he was saying is that what we're going to do, the so-called PNDCE, which was what Rawlings called his ruling council, was to try and forge a new path. And unfortunately, for various reasons, that did not come about. There were arguments between those who were advising him. They called him the Legon people, you know, these intellectual socialists. And there was another group who were tussling for power. But at the same time, Rawlings was really battling against people trying to overthrow him, which is where the issue of human rights abuses comes into it. But to cut the long story short, first of all, they did not succeed. Nunu-Mensah left the PNDC, so he had differences with Rawlings. And then after that, but further to that, what he was thinking about, what Rawlings was also thinking about, because he was like this free thinker. He didn't say he was socialist, he didn't say he was capitalist, he just spoke to the masses. I just know when my belly is hungry, and things like that. So, but, you know, was he all hot air and mirrors? I believe he genuinely wanted to create new institutions in Ghana. That did not come about. So that was a failure, and that is something Nkrumah tried to do, but people accused him of dictatorship for understandable reasons, and they found it intolerable. Rawlings, unfortunately, could not do that. But this is something in today's world, if we are going to get anything from the lives and the careers of Nkrumah and Rawlings, how do you find an indigenized system of governing an African people that works? That's the first one. If I can just complete the second point I want to make is about, so that's one issue of governance. Then the second issue is about economic independence. Rawlings was instinctively, like his comrade Thomas Sankara, who was outwardly a Marxist, wanted to be independent of the Bretton Woods people. And so Rawlings really became apolitical. You know, the people who are fighting, they didn't, I mean, a lot of Nkrumahs do not like Rawlings. It's not just from the cocoa class, people from the Ashanti strongholds who have a grudge against him because the 3 heads of state that were executed in 79. But that was the decision of the whole council, not Rawlings. No. But what happened was that Rawlings had wanted, like Sankara, to create an independent Ghana. But again, he failed in terms, and this is where you need to mix the goal of economic independence and productivity, not just consumerism from the West, actually producing, whether it's fridges, cars. This has not come to Africa yet. Why? With all these minerals, So what I'm saying is that the economic issue, Rawlings gave that a pass. Why did he give that a pass? Well, a lot of the coups against him found support with people who were based in places like America. So Rawlings just decided, okay, I'm going to go with the wind. And what he did, unlike Sankara before his death, Sankara actually predicted, I'm going to die because I'm resisting this IMF, this World Bank imposed structural adjustment on Africa. It's just going to make Africa submit to more colonialism under another umbrella. Rawlings did not go down that path. He accepted the IMF, and they made him his darling. They made him their darling. And so this structural adjustment, Rawlings carried it out. Unfortunately, what it meant is it didn't go according to his Pan-Africanist view of power to the black man that he was saying in 1979 and on his return. Unfortunately, this went and acted against that ideal. And so he sold Ghana's resources and to foreign businesses. They put money in the Ghanaian economy. So you can see that the Ghanaian economy does begin to improve in many ways under Rawlings. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, we have to say the legacy, unfortunately, like Nkrumah's legacy, Ghana is an oasis of peace compared to what happened in Sierra Leone and Liberia, what happened earlier in Nigeria. But we mustn't set the bar low. Ghana is not an industrialized economy.
It isn't.
It's not an independent country. And on that basis, we have to say there's still work to be done. And we can look back at Nkrumah and Rawlings to see how developing the indigenous institutions, what is our plan for rapid industrialization, like happened in South Korea or in Singapore. How do you do that?
You do that with education. And this is what Mandela was saying. And this is what I was trying to explain at the beginning, because the concept of it, the concept of education, how did Malaysia, how did South Korea, how did those countries manage to do it? They did it because first and foremost, they invested in human resources. And this is what former South African President Ian Bolter said. He says, look, if we are to put more money, he was telling the ANC, let's put more money in education. Because if we put more money in education, we are going to have a middle class coming up. That's what England did. That's what most of the countries that have developed. If you have an educated class of people, whichever policies you're going to put down, they are going to look down upon. But if you don't build education institutions, you've got trouble coming up. That is the problem that Ghana, Nkrumah had that problem. Rawlings came in, he had his policies, he tried to put them up. And of course, obvious as you are saying, you're going to implement these things and put them on the table. But if the people that you're putting the food at the table don't know how to use forks and spoons, then there's no point. They will use their hands and they will be burning their hands or something like that. So it won't work. That is where it's not just Ghana's problem. It's the problem of the entire African continent, I guess. Putting more money in human resources. Because if we don't do that, that's why we have a brain drain in Nigeria. That's why we have all that. You educate everybody and they go because the structure that you have can't keep them. Anyway.
But look, you need to finish up that point.
Yeah.
Because the issue is not just education.
No.
You can't look at things in isolation.
I'm saying education is part and parcel. I should say, when you have policies that are coming up, if you have about 20 policies, for example, it should be one of the top, it should be on the agenda on top. Because if you're saying, okay, if you're going to have better teachers, the teachers must have had a degree or must have had this in institutions where they're going. If you're going to have this, we have these education institutions, not only brighten people's mind in terms of policies they're going to follow, not just the people, because you are a government, I'm a government. As long as we're on the ground, we are going to listen and understand what the government is trying to implement. That's why I was saying that Mandela said he was the right man, but in the wrong era, because whatever he was trying to
what did Mandela himself do?
No. But I mean, he laid down the guidelines on with the ANC, and that's it. Because as soon as he finishes 5-year term, he says, let's follow this pattern. If you listen to the speech he gave, and if you read his book, Long Way to Freedom, you're going to find that some of the things he put down. But as soon as he left office, the ANC comes in and they try to change the policies. They went the other way from where he wanted. But
industrial base.
Yeah.
But
I know.
Stephen,
I didn't want us to go. When we go around Africa,
yeah,
we're trying to look at Ghana, because Ghana is 65 years old.
And we should keep on referring back to Nkrumah. Because Nkrumah had a plan. Which was to develop secondary schools, technical schools. But when he was overthrown, I think there might have been there were about 3 universities in Ghana. I'm sure there are many more than that. Now, when we're talking about education, when we're talking about policies, I want this audience to realize that we shouldn't be talking as if this is like business as usual, the way we are saying this amount of money goes to education, this one will go to tourism. No! People have to get that thorough vision from the start. What Nkrumah wanted to do, what Rawlings in the beginning of his career as a leader wanted to do, which is create a plan. This is what we should be talking about, not spending this amount of money on education.
The plans were there. The plans are there.
Plan, 10-year plan to totally mechanize the agricultural areas. When we talk about education, we're not just talking about putting people up to literacy rate, I hope. We're talking about an accelerated plan that is going to produce physicists, people who can deal with all parts of the manufacturing sector. Something that is very intensive and something that is very targeted. And what that needs is a whole collective national effort. And in many ways, why Nkrumah is still relevant, is that I know we're all wary of authoritarianism. But if we look at any of those countries that have developed their countries outside of Western Europe, who did their development off the back of the development world, the Americas, where they colonized, and also Africa and parts of Asia, there were people ruled by authoritarian regimes to one degree or another. So I'm talking about the Soviet Union, South Korea, Singapore,
even Taiwan.
They had authoritarian. Lee Kuan Yew was not a democrat. Do you see? In the sense we understand it. So a lot of these things about our democracy and personal freedoms, I appreciate that. But you're leading yourself into a way in which your society becomes open to infiltration. If somebody comes up with such as a plan that Nkrumah had, for instance, go back to where Fidel Castro has looked at what happened in Iran, 1953, and in Guatemala, 1954, when the Americans overthrew a democratically elected government. Mossadegh in Iran and Arbenz in Guatemala. They were open societies. So it means that your media, your religious institutions, all these institutions can be bought. Riots, protests can be fomented. They're not what you think they are. These are outside forces. So what Fidel said, he was speaking with Che Guevara, was that we will have to create a closed society. So I'm just saying, when we think about 65 years of Ghana, how many years of Nigeria or any country in Africa, we mustn't sort of lower our expectations.
Yeah.
Most of these economies are consumer economies. They're not producing, they're just extractive.
Yeah.
And even with these extractive industries, they're selling the rights to prospect oil. In Ghana, in Angola. That's not what you should be doing. What African leaders should be doing is having a concrete plan which is going to harness the national body politic for everybody to move forward and keep the resources from the extractive part. You do it yourself. Don't rely on foreigners to do that. Okay? How you get your people in diaspora, how you harness your people, that's for you to sort out. But you must sort that out so that everybody can collectively go forward and develop things right from extraction to production. Fridge, car. And if you can do that in Africa, wow, the costs under your own currency regime. Remember, South Korea have to import. They're not a military resourced country. Whereas in Africa, if you could manage to do that in Congo, in Angola, in Nigeria, in Ghana,
South Africa,
you would produce goods. And you could even do them very, very cheaply. That is the vision people need to have.
That's the vision. South Africa has had that economy during apartheid. They have the industries. They have an industrialized sort of economy because they have assembling plants there of Mercedes-Benz, BMWs. They have
That's
plants
not the
there.
same thing.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Not the same thing
what I'm trying to say is
your
that,
own creation.
Okay. Even the medical structure they have in South Africa is very, very good. So they've tried to do that. And it's so a question of it goes back again to the elite and educational class, because one of the problems they had from the beginning is that if they are selective and they're only having a particular type of people where they should have moved away, say for example now the whole of South Africa, bring the same educational level to the same as the black to the black people as well, because if they put more money now in education, then you're going to have a class coming out, or African classes coming out. But now what they do is that they've imported so many. There's a huge foreign invasion of those who are working in their hospitals. And Nigeria is a culprit. There are so many Nigerians in South Africa.
Culprits? There are all sorts of people there. There are Zimbabweans.
Yes, Zimbabweans, but
Somalians,
the majority are Nigerians.
And when there was that unfortunate incident, everybody was attacked.
I know.
But, I think, what we should take out, what Ghanaians should take out from the legacy of Nkrumah and Rawlings is they must rededicate themselves to this whole idea about how can we transform our country to the extent that it becomes industrialized, self-sufficient. That is the key thing.
There is another issue which I've looked at, and which I think President Nana Akufo-Addo is trying to bring forward now. The issue of Pan-Africanism. He's going backwards to revisit what Nkrumah had left behind, and also to look at, Rawlings had tried it as well. Ghana was the center of Pan-Africanism long time ago when Nkrumah was obviously in office, and other leaders have come in, and we are looking at what Pan-Africanism, as Akufo-Addo is trying to bring it forward, say, hey, we're still here, we still need to do it now. If you look at it now in the 21st century, will it succeed, or it has lost interest? People have lost interest in a way.
You see, the problem is Pan-Africanism. What does it mean? And Pan-Africanism is something that's it's something that can't stay in time. You can't say Nkrumah expressed Pan-Africanism, that is the be-all and end-all. It's something that needs to keep on evolving. It has to be a continuation, Absolutely. But apart from certain issues like black pride, because you are united, because your countries were exploited in the same way. Yet you can see all these divisions along the lines of ethnicity, tribalism, we can call it for what it is, religion, which still keeps us apart. So Pan-Africanism can be a very vague term. And I think, as I was saying before about this issue about the issue of economic independence and creating indigenous institutions, regardless of what sort of ideology you profess to hold, it should be about what is the plan for Ghana and other countries to achieve this independence, to remove themselves from being indebted to the global institutions. Because that is a plan. That appears to be something which people should be able to avoid. But unfortunately, it brings them down. In Yarere, we were talking about before, one of the things he ruminated about later on in his career, when he was in retirement, is that we did everything you told us to do. He was accusing these people when he went on the conference after his retirement. And he realized it. The raison d'etre, the aim of these institutions, whether they are practicing development economics, whether they are doing structural adjustment, and they're giving you grants, subsidies, is to keep you indebted. And that's the issue that Africans, you can use debt to your advantage, but also you should be able to avoid it when it is not necessary to do so.
But this comes back again to the numbers, as I was saying. If you've got the numbers, the chances are...
Numbers of what?
Numbers, say for example, there are 16 countries. You all unite, you all have debts. You have all got a debt with the World Bank. And you all unite under one, the ECOWAS, for example, and the East African Community. I'm looking at that. If those models now, in the 21st century...
African Union. But we know how ineffectual that is.
African Union won't work. It won't work. It doesn't have an economical version of it. It has a political version of saying, this is what we are listening to, what you are saying.
Even regardless of that.
The East African community has...
but if I can just say, because remember, this is the successor of the OAU. And Nkrumah had a vision through the OAU, while these other institutions were germinating. So before ECOWAS was established, I believe in 1975, Nkrumah was trying to create relations with neighbors like Guinea, Sékou Touré, Madibo Keita in Mali. So these institutions, I'm not poo-pooing them. At the same time, although the African Union has proved to be a failure in regard to what it's supposed to do, it can also be used as an engineer, a guide for these economic policies. Because if you are, as we are saying, I remember Ali Mazrui mentioning this in the 1980s. He said, look, if I owe my bank, £100, I'm in trouble. If I owe them something much more, they are in trouble. Now, okay, you use the ECOWAS, the Economic Community of East Africa, but remember what Nkrumah's vision was: United Africa. And the OAU, he put a lot of faith in it. Obviously, the OAU was divided at their inception because Nkrumah was one of, they divided up into the Monrovia group, the conservative people. Let's do it gradually. Then the more radical people like Nkrumah wanted integration quicker. So I think we should put more pressure on the African Union to be more effective, because that political pressure, that political expertise, that political unity can be used to harness those aims and objectives you have in East Africa and West Africa in an economic basis.
To a certain extent, I agree with you. But then when I look at the institution as a whole and I see how it is, people who are not, for example, part of the East African community wouldn't really put too much effort in trying to put it up, in trying to help it be bigger than the African Union.
Well, they wouldn't really, I think that's because a now they're looking at things.
No. They're putting more things. They're putting more pressure on their particular individual organization. That's what I'm looking at, and I've seen it. You hear them talking.
Well, unity is unity, I believe we should. Whether we're dealing with localized, it should be much wider. This is why, in principle, I'm against secession. I'm against that because I think you need as big a landmass as possible of cooperation. If we want to reinvent. Yeah, that's the word we should be using. Pan-Africanism, not Pan-Africanism in 1965 at the height of Nkrumah, but Pan-Africanism has evolved. Okay, then that's what we should be looking at. Not in some sort of window dressing way in which we want to feel good about ourselves. It should be in a practical way. And again, I will just remind the viewers here, economic independence, self-sufficiency, and indigenized institutions for Africans. Those are the aims you should judge your governments about.
I agree with you to a certain extent, but the biggest, I'm not just trying to put you down with that economically, it's quite good. But I agree with you to such a big extent. But at the same time, when I look at the economies of Africa, when I look at the structure of where we are going and the divisions which we have, that's why I always go back to the education structure. Because if you have people who have come up, say for example, who are being educated to a certain level, and they are understanding and they are well informed, because one of the biggest problems we face in Africa is that our media doesn't reach even, it reaches a certain level of people. Well, the phones are here now, we can use medias here and there, but at the end of the day, we don't really reach the ground level where people could say, listen, this is what we want. Can we go with this? Yeah. I mean, I can give you an example.
We're speaking at cross purposes here, because when you have a program for economic self-sufficiency, that must necessarily include education, which, as I said, and you can do it in terms of an accelerated program, whereby you're not even looking at it in terms of the conventional way of a 3-year degree. You're looking at how you can actually, and this involves a lot of planning. Population planning. How many people we will put through education at a certain level. How many people will then be able to work in particular industries. That's the kind of planning that is involved. So it's not an issue of no, I don't. I mean, you say you agree to me with a certain extent. Assuring me you're not putting it down. I'm saying that's irrelevant. I'm saying what you're saying is correct. Listen, but it needs to be within a plan to achieve economic self-sufficiency over a period of time. That program, very few to non-African states have it. They're just managing an economy. Now, I may upset those viewers who like John Kufuor. He was a very magnanimous man, a very distinguished man, a good administrator. But at the same time, and he actually, he's praised for being a man who brought in a lot of investment, grants, subsidies. My point is that that's not what you should be aiming for in leadership, because those sorts of investments, when you're relying, on Arab money, on European money, that's not what is going to make you self-sufficient. It's very piecemeal. You need an overarching plan, and Nkrumah had that in his mind. That's what people need to go back to.
Listen, I want a quote here, which Nkrumah said years ago. And it's a very interesting quote, because I got it from somewhere, and it comes back to the issue that we have talked about education and knowledgeable. He says that when a perfect lie has been told, the truth can become impossible. But when you become knowledgeable, it is for you to make the impossible possible. To get that concept right, when a perfect lie has been told, like the lies that are being spread about us, about this, about that, it becomes, it's in somebody's head. He was mentioning himself that they told a lot of lies about what he tried to achieve and what he was trying to do. Then but when it became knowledgeable, when people are knowledgeable, in other words, if they are knowledgeable, well, they will look through your lies. But if they are not knowledgeable, then they will go with the lie that the government has put forward, or whoever has put forward. That's what he was trying to say. Now, the lies coming from the West, the lies coming from outside and so on, become difficult to put away, because everybody looks at them and it doesn't read between the lines. That's what he was trying to explain here. And that's why when I keep saying, look, the issue of education, investing into human resources becomes much bigger because they've done it here. But how have they done it? Well, they've gone outside, they've been to Africa, they've been everywhere, they got the money, they came here. And they make sure that here, you don't even leave school until you are 16. You get the point? So you can at least read a newspaper. You can read a newspaper. You can understand what the politicians and other people are trying to do, regardless of whether you left school at 16 or not. So that's why I'm trying to say that if we can get that out of the way in Africa, and the knowledgeable, so that if you are selling something to them, they are knowledgeable. They won't go with the politicians who are trying to buy them rice for one during the election. They will say, no. We don't want somebody without a vision. But you can fail to sell your vision and you still win elections in Africa with your money. Why? Because at the end of the day, it comes back to the knowledgeable, as Nkrumah was saying. That is why when I try to add this together, it's a question of saying, okay, if we invest more in human resource, then the rest of the things will start falling into place. Japan has done that, Taiwan has done that, all the others have done that.
I think, I have to disagree with you. It's more than that.
Yeah.
Because when these countries achieved, the status of coming from third world to first world or near first world countries, it was just it's more than saying you're going to invest in your human resources. I mean, recently I was on this your program to talk about Saludo in
Saludo in
and one of the things I don't know if I didn't probably express it when we were here, but
the governor of Anambra
afterwards. And the thing about that is that he was saying something about Europe has a diminishing population. Africa has a large base of human resources, and that if you can tap into that. That's a money earner. And I'm saying, look, that's not enough. Come on. How much money does it, are people sending through remittances to Africa?
To Africa,
Is that developing Africa? No, it's not.
So
this is why I go back to the point. You may not agree with Nkrumah in terms of where how he expressed what he was doing. But a lot of the things he was doing are going to be necessary if Africa is going to develop. In other words, what he tried to do was to have a plan. And he did include education in that. He had this plan about secondary schools, technical schools, universities. I think that could even go further. So Saludo, when he was talking about that, that's just, they may allow you in their country, or they may pay you and you're in a payphone or something, you're doing something that is remote, but you're working for this other country and they pay you. You're at their mercy. It's not productive. You want something independent. And by analogy, I would compare that, say, to South Korea, who, when Germany had a shortfall in miners, nurses, he sent a few thousand, quite a few thousand South Korean nurses and miners, to mine coals and coal mines and things like that. And the whole idea was that South Korea got a big payment. And that big payment was not just the salaries paid to these people, but it went to national development. So people need to be thinking along the lines of Ghana 65. What do we do in the next 10, 15, 25 years to become developed? We can't afford to be short term. We can't afford to be glib and copy certain things in the West when they talk about, let's do this to our education system. No. We're thinking about how can you use the education system, plan it over a number of years, and make sure that the people who you're educating are going to be placed on a path that is going to be useful to the economy. That is a productive, independent economy. Not just sending people who have labor, who are, some sort of experiment, and they're given funds to develop a high-tech industry somewhere in Nigeria or in the Volta region. No. You need an overarching plan. And this is why, to keep it relevant to our topic today, Nkrumah and Rawlings, they, at least Rawlings in the first part of his, he did, as I quoted Brigadier Nono Mensah, saying that we've got to think about a different way of organizing ourselves politically. Achampong actually tried that. He used Unigov, but unfortunately Unigov seemed to be something that he was trying to use to maintain the presence of the military. So that was dead in the water. So what we're looking for is who among the leaders, if Akufo-Addo wants to impress Ghanaians, you have to say to him what exactly are his plans, which will continue after he leaves power or unfortunately departs this world. What is Ghana going to be in the projection of the next 25 years? This is where we're lacking. Something we haven't discussed here, which is also very, very important. And I go back again to the great man, Mandela, in his final speech to the ANC, which is something I've watched over and over. And he kept on saying, the biggest problem that Africa has had is that when the leaders come into office, they become kings in the office. They weaken the power of the party. And the parties adore the leaders. And the leaders, I mean, if you look at most of the people who have been in power longer, they believe they have stronger parties, but they have weaker parties because there is no competition within the parties. When you challenge somebody in a party, be it a Nigerian party, be it a Ghanaian party, and the man is the president, and you try and challenge him why he's in office. Are you speaking about your president?
No.
Museveni?
Museveni is part of it, and others are part of it. The man in Guinea, Equatorial Guinea, for example. The man in any challenge that comes when you are a leader in within the political party. If we don't, if the political parties don't have the powers to speak out openly, Julius Malema was a member of the ANC, and in fact, he was a youth wing within the ANC. Now, the current president of South Africa is trying to see how he can try and, because the things that Malema is talking about are things that party members who are a hierarchy within the ANC don't even discuss, things which are affecting the people on the ground. And this is where Mandela was trying to explain. He said, look, if you lose the ground, then you probably, as years go by, you lose the election because you're not listening to the voices of those on the ground. Now, I'm looking at the African political parties, and I'm looking at the political parties in Ghana. Where is CCP, Nkrumah's party? Where is all the other parties that have existed, even Rawlings' party? Because the leaders come in, they don't bring the parties on top to have a huge voice within the parties. They challenge the people. The people who challenge the leader are quickly shifted out of the party or even shut down. So that's what I'm saying. How can this be? I mean, you can be here, you challenge a conservative you can challenge a prime minister and you remain in the party. You can challenge a prime minister, a president in America, and you still remain somebody in the party. Because you're part of a structure. That's your opinion. They don't block your opinion. How can this happen? How can we get to that level that if the parties are stronger, then the structures will be stronger that will govern Africa. But if the parties are weak, as soon as they go out of office, that's the end of them.
Well, I think I'd mentioned earlier before that when you have a so-called democratic system, you know, first of all, like in other parts of the world, money is the deciding factor. And that whoever votes, you know, you're voting for a particular direction that part of the ruling class wants you to follow. So, you know, Africans need to give it some good thought that there might be alternative ways in which representation can occur within the context, maybe just one party. It could be two parties. But that this overemphasis on, you know, political democracy, everybody knows that it's been a pretty much a disaster in terms of people just coalescing on ethnic lines. Or even when they, on the face of it, join together, they basically are nonetheless still making deals. So people are really just thinking about ethnicity, not about the whole idea of the development of the country. So you've got to think about very carefully. They've got to think very carefully. I'm not giving any kind of solutions. I'm just inviting people to think about how can you change institutions.
Yeah.
Because if you're thinking about Conservative Party in UK, you're almost defeating yourself there, I would argue.
Why?
Because you want something unique to Africa, that these imported things, I quoted, he's not the only person who said it,
No.
Nono Mensah,
Yeah.
but other people who thought that let's just make a departure, total departure from what we've been doing all this time, and think very seriously. How are we going to harness all our talents and diminish issues of ethnicity, tribalism, and religion? This is where a visionary leader comes in. And this is where people should think along the lines of when you organize yourselves in a so-called political party, you organize your society in a way in which it's not going to be infiltrated by people who bribe your elites.
No. Let me say something here. It has happened. The reason why I'm mentioning it.
What has happened?
No, what I'm saying, the reason why I'm mentioning failure, challenges that happens within parties and end up, if you don't support the leader, you end up on the wrong side. Kenneth Kaunda and this other chap who was his vice president, Kenneth Kaunda and his vice president, they disagreed. Simon Kapwepo. They disagreed. Eventually, Kapwepo had to leave office. Jomo Kenyatta
but again, I think what you're doing is you're
listen. No. I'm not personalizing.
The fundamental thing should be, what institutions do we have? I'm saying,
if I disagree with you now, it doesn't mean that I can get out of the party. What I'm saying is, when the structure of the party is stronger, and the party is in the office, regardless of whether, if you disagree with your wife, do you kill her? Do you get her out of the way? You don't do that. That's why I'm saying that when we get these parties to be stronger and speak with one voice, regardless of whether somebody is opposing you, this is where the biggest problem has occurred in Africa. If you disagree,
biggest problem.
If you disagree with a leader may be wrong. A leader may be wrong. Huh?
Well, this is what I'm saying, is that we should not.
If it's wrong,
because what you're basically saying is you are accepting this idea of the quote-unquote charismatic leader, and this has been the downfall.
No.
This has been the downfall of Africans. Look,
I'm not accepting.
Stalin.
I'm not accepting that.
Murderous Stalin.
Listen,
Stalin had disagreements.
Yeah.
He murdered all his opponents.
Yeah.
But he industrialized the USSR within a generation.
Yeah.
Lee Kuan Yew had disagreements.
Yeah.
He developed he put people in jail.
Yeah.
He wasn't somebody who was just let's have a democracy. No, he was an authoritarian.
Yeah.
Park Chung-hee in South Korea, he had disagreements. People were put in jail or put out of office. That is not the issue. The issue is, what are your institutions about? What are they heading to? Do they have a program that is going to develop your country? That is the be-all and end-all, really.
Listen,
you were talking along the lines of a political party, a Western political party, an African political party. But at the end of the day, what does it matter if this ruler does not have a program that has started, and that program is looking to see how many people are going to be educated at primary level, secondary level, tertiary level, up to university, postgraduate level. How you're going to distribute that over the course of the next 15, 20 years.
Listen, you may have a plan, and I agree with that plan, but the way to reach the level of what we want to reach may be our disagreement. But it doesn't mean that I don't agree with you. I agree with you, but we may say, okay, we take the phone there, and I say, okay, this is where we should walk. And you are saying we should go on the left first before we go on the right. And I'm saying this is a shorter route. So we may have that disagreement, but it doesn't mean that I don't believe in what the vision. The visions have been there. Jomo Kenyatta had a bigger vision with his vice president. The vice president even said when Kenyatta died, he said, we had the same vision, we had the same plan, but we disagreed on how to achieve them. And this is what happened with Kaunda. This is what happened with Nyerere as well, with his former vice president. Sometimes you have disagreements, but those disagreements don't mean that you don't have a plan. The plans are there. The plans are there.
And what plan is that? Did Kenyatta plan to make Kenya an industrial powerhouse?
No,
he did not. He did not. And in Nyerere fell short. He focused just on agriculture.
You're going into personalities now. All I'm trying to tell you,
the reality is, because
all I'm trying to tell you,
because what you're saying is not unique.
Listen, what I'm trying to tell you,
it's not unique to Africa.
Is that all these people have got plans. They've got plans. The disagreement is how to achieve those plans.
Those plans still fall short of what Africans need. And we go back to Nkrumah.
Yeah.
His plan was, at the end of the tunnel,
Yeah.
I see Ghana being an industrialized, self-sufficient country. I see Ghana having institutions that reflect its Africanness. Never mind disagreements.
Right.
That happened in these countries we're saying industrialized themselves. People were put out in the cold. People were put in gulags. People were murdered.
Listen,
that's not the issue. The issue is, what do we have to make Africa self-sufficient?
It's the plans are there. All I can assure you is that the plans are there.
Saying plans.
The plans, the vision, everything is there. Every leader who has walked into an African office will tell you what he wants.
I disagree with that.
You know what
Mobutu's plan was? Mobutu's plan was, I belong to one of the minerally richest people in this world. And when I'm in power, I become one of the richest men in the world, and my country is one of the poorest in the world. That was no plan. He was just a facilitator of Western neocolonialism. And unfortunately, many of the leaders have been like that.
We're coming towards the end of the program. How do you see Ghana in the next 20 years?
How do I see Ghana? I can't say that because I'm not a Ghanaian. But what I can say, how do I hope to see Ghana? I hope to see in Ghana,
if it continues the way it is,
it will just be middling. It will be good by West African standards, because they have this stability in which you no longer have coups. It's not like Sierra Leone and Nigeria and Liberia that were torn apart, these inhuman wars. So that's okay. But what I would like to see Ghana, like every other African country, is to have a leader, a set of leaders. We don't want to personalize it, make it just one charismatic person. People who create a vision that what our plan is we want this country to become economically self-sufficient. At the moment, Ghana does not have that. Any more than Uganda, Nigeria, or Mali has. Nobody has that. So we've got to go back to Kwame Nkrumah. Whether you like him or not, you may say that he became a dictator, okay? But what I'm saying is that you have to look at what he was thinking, the way he was thinking. He was trying to unify people. It might have looked dictatorial, very communistic, but he was trying to harness the people. So you don't have to follow exactly what Nkrumah did the last time. But if you're going to have a Ghana that is self-sufficient, economically independent, like South Korea has become, like Singapore, you've got to elect people. You've got to find people who will guide your country along the lines of having an economic plan of independence. Mechanize your agriculture, develop all sorts of industries, heavy industries, light industries, and be able to export your goods. That's what we'll be aiming for.
All right, Mr. Wakile, thank you very, very much. I like your passion, and I just wish that all Africans had the same passion and knowledge about the African continent as you are. As you are. I just want to say thank you very much for being with us tonight, and I do hope that you've learned something from Ghana at 65, and then we'll be together again for another edition of Africa Speaks. Thank you, and may God bless you all.